Hello, and welcome to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice milestone from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is March 18th. Today, I am thrilled to talk about a non-violent case that also happens to be one of the greatest unsolved crimes in modern history, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist. On this day in 1990, two men disguised as Boston police officers tricked their way into the museum, tied up the guards, and stole 13 pieces of invaluable artwork, paintings and artifacts that were worth an estimated $500 million. They were works by Vermeer, Rembrandt, and Degas, and to this day, none of them have been recovered. So who pulled off this daring heist? Where are these missing masterpieces now, and why has this case remained unsolved for decades? Today, we're going to be unpacking the ongoing mystery that still haunts art lovers and law enforcement alike. Let's get started. It was the early morning hours of March 18th, 1990, and while much of Boston was still buzzing from their St. Patrick's Day festivities, something far more sinister was about to unfold inside the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. At exactly 1:24 a.m., two men dressed as Boston police officers approached the museum's side entrance on Palace Road. They rang the buzzer and told the night security guard, a man named Richard Abbott, that they were responding to a disturbance call. Now, listen, Abbott was not a career security guard or someone who had a particular love for art or aspirations of having a career in law enforcement. He was an aspiring rock musician who just took this job for some extra cash. So, despite museum protocol stating that no unauthorized visitors should be allowed in, he let them in. Once inside, the two fake officers immediately took control. Now, Abbott wasn't alone. There was another guard with him. And one of the fake cops looked at them and said, "Gentlemen, this is a robbery." They quickly restrained both security guards, duct taping and handcuffing them before blindfolding them and leading them down to the basement. With the security team out of commission, the thieves had free reign over the museum. Over the next 81 minutes, the criminals moved swiftly through the museum, choosing exactly 13 pieces of art to steal. Among their biggest scores were the Concert by Vermeer, which is one of only 34 Vermeer paintings in existence and was valued at over $200 million. The Storm on the Sea of Galilee by Rembrandt, which is Rembrandt's only known seascape, making it an irreplaceable piece of art history. A Lady and Gentleman in Black, also by Rembrandt, which is a striking double portrait that added to the hall's staggering value. Chez Tortoni by Manet, which is a charming cafe scene that highlighted Manet's unique brushwork. And 5 sketches by Edward Degas, which showcased his fascination with movement, particularly in ballet and equestrian scenes. They also took Landscape with an Obelisk, which was originally thought to have been a Rembrandt, but was later attributed to Govert Flinck. A Chinese Gu, which is a Shang Dynasty bronze vessel. It's a ritual drinking cup dating back to 1100 BC. And finally, a French imperial eagle finial, which is a Napoleonic artifact that was once mounted on a military standard. Now, interestingly, the thieves left behind some even more valuable pieces, including The Rape of Europa and Botticelli's The Tragedy of Lucretia. So, what made them pick the pieces that they chose? Did they have a specific list to follow, or were they just going around and choosing pieces that spoke to them in some way? At 2:45 a.m., the thieves removed the security tapes, exited the museum, and vanished into the night. When the morning shift arrived, they were met with quite the shock. The security guards were still tied up in the basement, and there were just empty frames where the masterpieces once hung. Investigators immediately got to work, but right from the start, the case was full of dead ends. Now, of course, one of the first people that they had to look at was Richard Abbott, the security guard who let the thieves in. After all, this did have a lot of the hallmarks of an inside job. Abbott had opened a side door earlier in the night for no reason. He violated protocol by letting the police officers in, and he had a history of breaking security rules. But despite these red flags, investigators couldn't find any solid evidence tying him to the heist. As the years passed, multiple theories emerged. Some believed that there was a mafia connection and that Whitey Bulger's gang might have orchestrated the heist to use the paintings as leverage. Others speculated that a wealthy art lover had hired thieves to steal the work for a private collection, while some theorized that the stolen art was used as collateral for drug deals or arms trades. But despite dozens of leads and sting operations and international searches, none of the stolen pieces have ever been found. More than 3 decades later, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist is still the largest unsolved art theft in U.S. history. But the museum has never lost hope. They've left the empty frames hanging, not just as a reminder of what was stolen, but as a message to the world. These pieces belong here, and we're waiting for them to come home. The museum still offers a $10 million reward for any information that leads to the recovery of the artwork, which is the largest private reward ever offered. Now, in 2013, the FBI announced that they knew who had committed the heist, but without enough evidence, they couldn't make arrests. They believe the artwork has changed hands multiple times and has possibly been hidden in private collections. So now the question remains, will we ever get answers? Could a new lead emerge? Could one of these paintings surface at an auction or at a private estate sale? Until that day comes, the Gardner Museum heist remains one of the greatest mysteries of the art world. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found this story compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And be sure to join me again tomorrow as we explore another significant event in true crime history. Until then, stay safe and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!